Hi, this is Orange County Executive Steve Neuhaus. This is NeuCAST, our podcast that we are bringing once a month with some special people from our community with some great inspiration to you and your family and your businesses. So with me, I'm here with my friend Bryan Ensall. We are here at Brown Barn Farms, and they do distillery. They do all sorts of cool stuff. I've been here a number of times. And Bryan, let's talk about a little bit about yourself. So first of all, welcome to you.
Thank you. I'm Bryan Ensall, owner of Orange County Distillery and Orange County Brewery, along with my partner John Glabacki, who's not here right now. He's busy elsewhere. So I guess you want to know like the history of how it all got started,
So I kind of know about you, a little bit about your story. They don't, but you and your partner both had your own separate businesses.
Correct.
Yeah. And you meet up at a Christmas party and concoct this dream of what we're at now, but tell us a little about that, like what you did, what he did, and how you guys, that meeting and where you are today.
So my partner, John Glabacki, owns Glabacki Farms. It's a fifth generation farm here in the Black Dirt. And I used to own Scott's Lawn Service of Orange County. But we both had the same off season, 3 or 4 months off where we didn't do anything besides the honey-do list kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we were at my wife's father's Christmas party, 2011, I think it was, drinking. And John said, I've got 6,000 pounds of sugar beets. Do you want to make some vodka? I said, sure, let's do it. Let's whatever. So that's what we did for that winter. And we decided to make it a hobby. It was just going to be a hobby, something to do on the side. And that's what we did. It took us about a year and a half to get our license to become legal. So we opened up Orange County Distillery in 2014 over here in the Black Dirt. And then we bought this property about a year after that. So this is Brown Barn Farms. This is our branch location. This is where we serve our stuff. It's not where we make everything. And then in 2016, I ended up selling Scott's Lawn Service and jumped full-time into the distillery. John did as well. Kind of stopped doing whatever else he was doing. He was growing a lot of onions and other vegetables, but decided just to grow his own grains just for our distillery. And then, so that's been going ever since. And then back in March of this year, we opened up the brewery, Orange County Brewing Company, which is another company.
So a couple questions for you. So you guys meet up at this Christmas party. You have this the beets and the sugar that you're going to make into some type of into vodka. Did you guys have the background on it to do it? So you just experimented, researched, created this product.
I can tell you now, but everything we did was illegal. We had to buy a still online, and at that time, if you buy a still, your name gets sent to a federal registry list, whatever. So we kind of did that for a while, and then we took us, like I said, about a year and a half to get our license to do it legally. It's a catch-22. You can't have your license until everything's set up. You can't really start distilling anything until you get your license. So it's like,
okay,
you have to teach yourself.
There's a lot of things like that. Yeah. So you start with vodka, then you have whiskey, and then we have now our latest thing is beer.
Yeah.
And so the vodka, how do you know that the product's good? After experimenting, you don't die from drinking
right.
it. Like,
well, there's a whole bunch of different steps, but I guess how do we know it was good? Is people were starting to buy it.
That's great.
Definitely now we're much more refined. We've been doing this for 8 years now. Definitely better than what we were selling when we first opened our doors. We know that, but we've definitely improved. People buy our stuff, right? Still, you still like it, right?
Absolutely. And then now let's go to my favorite thing, whiskey. Yeah. How did you go? You're like, all right, we got vodka down packed.
Right.
Let's try whiskey.
So, if every single person I've talked to in this industry has said, don't sell clear spirits to get in the door. Well, you have to. You need revenue.
Yeah.
And clear spirits, you can about 2 weeks, you can get it going and you can start selling stuff. That's what we did. But whiskey, all this stuff takes 2-4 years to age, and whiskey barrels. So you got to make it and then you got to sit on it for.
So it's an investment.
It's a huge capital investment. Absolutely.
A lot can go wrong in that period of time, or not really.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess stuff could go wrong. You could have had a bad batch that you put into a barrel. You're not going to know until you try it.
Wow.
We taste our stuff periodically, like maybe once a year or so. But yeah, something can go bad. You can get a fungus in there. Or there's all sorts of different things that can go bad. But it's definitely a time investment. You're talking, some of our stuff is over 4 years old now.
Wow.
So
you're doing vodka, you're doing whiskey. Where does this come in? The brewery.
That's a totally separate I don't know.
You guys are like, look, we've conquered this, we've conquered that. Where have we not?
Let's do something new. Let's spend money. Let's spend a lot more money and start a brewery. Somebody else approached us about making beer and whatnot. So we're like, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. We had a spare barn at our other property that we no longer were. We were only storing whiskey barrels in it.
Okay.
We decided to move that into our existing barn right now. So it was empty. So we decided to just go ahead and start a brewery. Again, didn't know anything about making beer at the time, but I think people like our beer.
Yeah.
People have been buying it, so it kind of replaces everything that we used to source from throughout New York, beers, from local places like Rushing Duck, is one of our favorites, Newburgh, that kind of stuff. But now it's our beer.
Is there still cross-pollination? Because sometimes I go to these local breweries. I love them all. The local people are pretty cool, and they're all kind of people like us, just like regular guys that wanted to do something.
Yeah.
Curtis over at Long Lot, or you go to Rushing Duck. I love them. They're probably one of my favorites right by my house. And one after another has a great story like yours. They just said, you know what, we decided to go with it and high risk and just damn the torpedoes and go for it. But I see they have a lot of cross-pollination. They'll carry other people's products. Right. You still see that synergy with some of the
definitely.
breweries?
So we have what's called a farm distillery license. They have a farm brewery license. They might also have another one as well. But what that means, if you're a farm license, is you can only sell stuff that's made in New York.
Okay.
So we can only buy, like I said, Russian Duck, Newburgh. Those are kind of our favorites. But we can't buy Bud Light. We can't buy tequila.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So that's all we serve.
Huh.
And that's like a lot of the places. So we all
I
buy
think
from
that's
each
cool.
other.
I think that's pretty good. I don't mind that law. And you know what? It's funny. The thing that you guys have that's a little bit different is you have that diversity: vodka, whiskey, and now beer. I've been to some breweries with my friends, and one of my friends in particular, his wife does not drink this stuff. She doesn't drink beer, but she might drink whiskey or vodka. So some of those places, at least originally when they first opened, just have beer. And there's a lot of people that don't drink that. I do, but the fact that you have this a little bit diverse portfolio, I think that makes it more appealing to everybody in the customer base, And
we also buy a lot from Pinning Cidery. That's the cider aspect. And we buy from Applewood Winery and Millbrook and White Cliff. We try to have everything for everybody. And we also have, non-alcoholic drinks.
That's great.
People like that.
So when you came home and told your family, like, hey, man, I had this great conversation, and I know I'm doing the lawn service business, but I want to get into this because we got some downtime. I'll knock out the honey to-do list. Right. Was your family originally like, yeah, go for it? Or like, nah, you're a little crazy?
I think they thought we were a little crazy. So at one point, just to give you an example, my partner and I did a bunch of tinctures for our gin. So gin's just it's a mixture of a bunch of different botanicals and whatnot. So we had like 30 or 40 of them laid out on the table. And we were just basically, with our wives, going through every single one, trying them, figuring out what we wanted our recipe to be. And some of them were absolutely terrible. Like, there's a reason why no gins have shallots or onions in them, right?
Yeah.
This just sounds terrible. But we wanted to give it a shot. It's like, why has no one done this? Well, that's why. It's absolutely garbage. But yes, we narrowed it down. But at the time, the wives were like involved with us, and they're like, what are you guys really trying to do here? Trying to make gin? Okay, we'll do that. So at first, like I said, it was just a hobby. Just something for us to do on the side. But then I kind of got lucky that it turned into this full-time job once I sold my lawn care business. So
was it more failure than success early on? Like if you added everything up, like, man, we had so many batches that we threw out, and or you just kept learning from it, and then you just started building on that success?
I think the way we distill is very small batch, so we did throw out a lot of stuff. But seeing that my partner is the farmer and it's the grain from our farm, we didn't mind throwing out a couple 100 pounds of mash here or there, grains and whatnot. So definitely there was a lot of failure in the beginning, but it's not like, if you're a larger distillery and distiller and you have this, hundreds of gallons of mash and something goes bad, that's a lot of money down the drain. So yeah, we did definitely have a lot of failure in the beginning, but I think that allowed us to really hone our products to the best of our ability.
So you and your partner have existing businesses, both successful, doing well. Did they suffer when you went on this venture initially, or no?
No, I would say no.
So once this started growing, you were able to say, I'm going to sell this off and focus on this.
Like I said, at the time it was a hobby. That's the way we looked at it. So we weren't doing this every day, and we didn't have Brown Barn in the very beginning. That was just we thought it was just going to be a very small part of our operation at the time. So yeah, it was a very small part of the operation. I'm sorry, it was like more like a hobby, and then it got busy, and there's definitely that overlap where I was getting ready to sell my business, and then John was kind of like, you know, all right, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay as a vegetable farmer, or am I going to jump into distilling? And so I think luckily for both of us, we could hop right into this and still have a job.
Great. So were there nights, because there's people that are watching that or want to jump into this, that had these dreams like, oh man, I've always wanted to do this, or I wanted to do that, or I wanted to open up a shop, or I wanted to get into this. Do you have, and they're afraid to jump out. It's a big risk, and it's a big jump, and you got a lot of stuff going on. You got your family, and you know, and there's this giant specter of failure out there that everybody's afraid of. Did you lay at night and say, am I making the right decision here?
Oh, all the time.
And you did, yeah.
All the
and
time.
Say, man, I'm doing a good thing with this lawn service. I just go back to that and have no risk, you know?
I mean, to rewind a little bit, I've only lived in New York for about 12 years. My wife and I were offered the opportunity to buy an existing lawn care business up here. We moved from Virginia up to here, 2011. We had 75 cents in our name when we moved.
Wow.
When we bought the business and we moved. We had nothing.
That's great. It's a great story. That's a good story to hear.
Huge risk, very huge risk. Luckily, I was walking into an existing business, so I knew the revenue was going to be there eventually. I mean, pretty quickly, but it was a gigantic risk. So that, you know, to rewind a little bit, you know, we had nothing, and that was successful, and then it turned into this. So.
Did your partner's farm and your existing business help feed to fuel the initial investment of this?
Yes and no. You know, like,
and I know I'm asking like crazy random personal questions, but just be like, you know, wave off or whatever if I'm going too deep.
Definitely fortunate that we had property that we could. It's John's property over there on the farm, that there was that empty barn sitting there. That's where the distillery started. So luckily we had that. You know, I can't imagine trying to start a distillery like down in, you know, that's downtown Goshen.
Yeah.
You know, in a municipality, it's definitely different. You got to jump through a lot more hoops.
And you lucked out because now the market is insane.
Yeah.
This barn is beautiful. This setting is, I'm thinking about this. You know, I've been to private parties here. I've been to the public events on the weekends. It is really awesome.
Yeah.
And really cool. And I know you have a crazy weekend coming up this weekend of good food and obviously great drinks. But it is just a perfect, you just lined up with the stars because the property, you got it definitely before now, because right now it would be untouchable. But it's just an amazing thing that the American way, it's a small business, it's that dream of a man or a woman or a group of people saying, we're going to do this, and now you've done it.
Yeah, we are very fortunate. I think the timing was perfect with the law had changed in New York, allowing farm distilleries and farm breweries to start up. You know, when we first moved up here, one of the first places I went to actually, after we bought our house, was Russian Duck, and they were like, I think the first or second brewery in maybe Newburgh was the first one.
Newburgh and then them,
Yeah, so it was one of the first places I had ever gone to. I didn't realize what it was going to turn into. Like you mentioned, Long Lot, and then there's Drownlands and all these other.
I think we got 26 or 28 by the time this year's over.
It's unreal. Yeah,
and I like that. Look, I know there's probably like a little rivalry, but I also love the cross-pollination and like the helping that these guys will help. Like a couple of them have told me that the more that are around here, the more it's good for us. Just like a restaurant.
Yeah, I agree.
Like if you walk down a strip, you might have a drink here, you might have dinner here, you might stop and have a dessert here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would totally. I mean, I don't know if I want a brewery right there.
No.
But
it is interesting because you're not on the same strip, but you are just like the wineries around here. I've been to the Christmas wreath tour that they have for wineries, where people stop at the different wineries. They get somebody to drive them, obviously, and you get a little ornament at each place. Like very cute, unique ideas to feed each other and fuel each other's success.
Yeah, we definitely, everyone gets along. You know, we get, like I said, mention all the wineries we buy from and the breweries and whatnot. You know, I keep mentioning Russian Duck. I don't know why, but they were one of the Nikki and Dan were one of the when we first started putting the blueprint together and buying our equipment. They were the ones that came over and helped walk us through, like, do this and do that and kind of thing. So it was really. They were great. They really helped us out a lot. So yeah, we all get along great. You know,
they're good
buying
people
each other's products
too. I like them all, and I've been friendly with them, and they're very nice to me. And you know, I used to go there in the middle of the winter and I see them building up. They add every year. They get a bigger building, or they have a different setting. But I remember going there like with my dad, and it's snowing outside, and you're in this like garage doors closed down, and they're serving hot dogs and beer, just like classical type of way of doing that. If you looked at it, what would be your own, if you had to do it differently, if you had to do it over again, what kind of things would you do differently? That would be a common mistake that first timers or people that had never done this before, and not whether it's a distillery or anything else, what would you do differently?
Central air in this place?
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be nice. Oh gosh, I don't know. That's a good question. What would I do differently? Personally, I think I would like to get more involved with the farming part of it, but that's just me like wanting to be more hands-on with everything. That's John's.
And he's good at it. He knows what he's doing. 5 generations.
Yeah, 5 generations. So, I mean, you can see out there, that's our corn right there. We're going to be harvesting soon we'll be using for our bourbon starting for next year.
Wow, that's great.
That's one thing I would like to get involved with. But gosh.
And the mistakes you made help make this better? Like
yes,
the stuff that
like
where you guys failed paid off?
Yeah.
And going forward?
Yeah, definitely. There's, of course, like with the brewery, I think everyone told us to go bigger, buy bigger equipment. Now we're seeing why.
Okay.
We're a small batch, but you can only put out so much at a time. And so you have to we're constantly brewing over at the brewery. So I think that's probably one thing immediately we saw with the brewery is like, yeah, we should have gone bigger. Definitely. But, at the time we're like, I don't see us moving that much beer. We look at our numbers here. That's what we're trying to do. And
when you switch product from like starting off with vodka and then going into whiskey and bourbon and now beer, has it gotten easier as you switch to different products? So like, all right, we're kind of familiar with how you make this stuff. We're not familiar with the exact product, but we've been through this before. We'll be fine.
You mean with like all the...
Like you started off with vodka, yeah, right? And then you moved into other things like whiskey and bourbon, and now the latest is beer. As you went into these different types of products, was it easier because you had the background of the other stuff?
Yeah,
even though they're
definitely.
different products?
Distilling is all pretty much the same. You got your grains that you're distilling and whatnot, and you're getting a clear alcohol out of it, and you might age it. That's all pretty much the same, and we've got that down packed. We've got our recipes down. The beer, if anyone asks me what's more difficult, distilling or beer or brewing, I'd say brewing.
Wow.
Distilling allows a lot more variance, a lot more tolerance of different temperatures, and grain bills can be different and all that, whatnot. But beer, I mean, if you go out and you get a Stella, it's always a Stella. It's always the same, but that's got to be precise.
Yeah.
Every single batch. So that's for us is definitely a lot different than distilling for sure. But the recipes are we know all the recipes for every single one of our whiskeys and our gins and our vodkas. We've refined those, and they're not going to really change. So.
And the other thing I was going to ask you is state, federal, and local. Like a lot of this stuff is new. So right now we have this giant film industry in Orange County. All sorts of famous actors coming up here, all different production companies filming movies and shows. And a lot of the local towns have no idea how to treat this.
Yeah.
They're like, you're bringing in extra caterers, you want to shut down this road, you want to borrow some of my cops, you want some of this props, you're going to spray fake snow all over Goshen, which Hallmark did last year. So we're educating them and helping come up with like a blanket policy for basic reimbursements and things like that to make it workable. A lot of these towns are like, wait, you're doing a planning board application for a distillery, wait, now you're doing a brewery and food trucks. And you have the federal regulations on, right off the bat when you buy distillery equipment, like you said, it's triggering their attention. And then you have the state with what they do and don't allow. How has it been navigating through that, the government entities? Tough?
So federal government could not have been easier either time.
That's good to hear.
They really just want your tax money. So they just like, here's your approval, whatever, you're done. I think we got our first federal permit for the distillery in like 2-3 months. But then the liquor authority in New York, there was about another 15 months on top of that. That was definitely more difficult. And then we don't have too much interaction locally. Since we are on a farm, it's a little different for us. But, if we were like downtown, you got fire codes and, waste, obviously, that kind of stuff. It's a little different over there. But no, not too much local interaction. Now with the brewery, again, that was just, federal was really easy. I think that was like 2 weeks. We got our federal, we sent it in, and then definitely a lot quicker with the state.
I remember as town supervisor, now I'm county executive, but before I was town supervisor in Chester, and we had farms that would make applications for one thing or another. And the farm laws in New York State are very supportive for some things.
Yes.
There's some things we definitely need to work on to help, like the dairy industry and some of the other industries that are struggling. But I remember they almost had to file for just a building permit sometimes. They didn't have to go through this long, egregious planning process on many things. So I did see that as a benefit because, it's easy to beat up the federal government or the state government or your local government, but some stuff does work. And you're saying that, look, as long as you pay your taxes, they're pretty workable. And the inspectors are people that come here to say, what are you making here? They're pretty cool too?
Yeah, everything on the local level has been great. We've gone to the planning board for, to expand here and whatnot, but it's pretty streamlined kind of thing. And our theory is with the feds, the TTB, if they visit, you already know you did something wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Just keep paying your taxes.
Do you, so if you, we're heading into some weird economy right now, and, there's been rising costs in fuel, and it's impacting other things. Are you seeing any of your products being impacted or the supplies for your products?
So one thing we always knew, and pandemic definitely reinforces, people love to drink.
Yeah.
Good times or bad times, people love to drink. But numbers have gone down a little bit, I would say, because are we in an inflation? Are we in a recession right now? I don't know. No one really knows what's going on right now. So definitely our numbers are down a bit. We're seeing that. But this is almost as close as you can get to a fail-safe industry, alcohol.
Great. And do you see like aluminum going up? Do you see the glass bottle cost going up?
So we did go through last year. Getting these bottles in particular was very difficult.
Which are beautiful. I mean, it looks so professional, so nice, and I see it at some of the stores. It's like, and obviously, I get this a lot as a Christmas gift every year from one of my coworkers. And it looks professional. It's beautiful. It tastes great. But you're seeing a bigger cost right now for glass and
the
and
glass
aluminum.
has definitely gone up, and the aluminum, everything we buy, the prices have really gone up. Getting cans was pretty difficult right before we actually opened up, as I was hearing, but it's since eased. But there was one, I forget who it was, but they wanted a minimum of 25 trucks of cans. They wanted us to buy from them, 25 trucks, which we probably couldn't fill in 25 years. So
they wanted bulk,
massive amounts of bulk.
So I know we're going to try some of these in a few moments, but one of the things I wanted to just ask you, like you guys go on this venture, you and John, where was your biggest source of knowledge? Did you have to hire somebody like that knew this, like somebody who was in the industry, or did you Google, did you research, did you call a university on how things should taste and how to test? Like, what was your biggest source of advice?
The distillery, it was all John and I. We really didn't go to any other distillers. It was, I guess, YouTube and some books, a lot of trial and error. Like going back to the small batch.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing. We would do very small batches on a smaller still, and if we liked it, we liked it. If we didn't, we'd throw it out. And that's how we really honed that craft. Even with the brewery, we do, like I said, we had some outside help, but we prefer just to go in there and do it ourselves.
And then once you have a product, do you get everybody like, hey, John, let's invite your 5 closest friends over, I'll have my friends over, and we're like, hey guys, what do you think? Is that how it works?
We used to, but now it's kind of like we both try it and
like it. I like it. It'll work.
Yeah, we used to have little cheat sheets, like we'd grade everything, but now we've kind of gotten away from that. It's like we know what we like and what we don't, and people keep buying it, so I guess that's a good barometer right there. People are buying our stuff, so.
I think people like these stories, a unique market, unique industry, but it could be, cookie cutter to any other thing that people that are watching now like that, again, that had these dreams of trying something else and wanted to do this, but didn't want to go out of that comfort zone. You guys have done it, so I appreciate your time for doing this today. Is there anything else that you would want to tell the people watching, like what we're missing or what they're missing?
Well, anyone that's been to Brown Barn before, I hope people have been here before, but this started out as a very small idea. It was going to be just this room. That didn't exist. That door didn't exist to the front room.
Yeah.
That was just a farmer's market, but a totally separate business. And I think it took us about 2 weeks to realize, well, we probably should expand. People like to drink.
Wow.
So that's when we expanded that, and we expanded upstairs and took over the entire property. So when we first opened at Brown Barn, it was just going to be another location, a pretty location to sell a few bottles. That's all it was really going to be. Maybe some cocktails.
If you look at your customer base, are they like 75% not from this area?
Depending on the time of year. So definitely, like when we come, they're coming up into the fall. We're going to get a lot of out-of-towners from the city and whatnot. They're coming up and they're doing their tours of wineries, and they want to see the sunflowers and pumpkins and all that kind of stuff. So we'll definitely see a lot of New York City folk. But we actually get people from all over the county. We get people that are just like, from throughout the country that are into craft distilling or just the craft business.
Check it out.
They like the smaller places. So yeah, we get a good mix of people from all walks, definitely, for sure. We're very family friendly here, dog friendly. So people.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else I'm missing that I didn't ask about you, or John, or your struggles and successes? Well, I think it's great, and this is what we want to do every month, and like hear from people like you, real people. Like you said, you came here with 75 cents or whatever, and you and your wife gave it a shot, and here you are, and now you've tried a different industry. And did you ever think you would ever go into something like this?
Not a chance. Never in my wildest dreams. No, I think like some people, like I did the Mr. Beer kit.
Yeah. Like
20 years ago in college, and I made a pretty good beer back then, but I had no desire to make beer, and I really had no desire to make my own whiskey. I never thought it was possible. Like, you think about, like we were talking about the capital investment it requires to put whiskey in the barrels, and you gotta let it sit for a couple years, or what do you do in the meantime? Like you have to make money somehow. So yeah, I never thought that would be possible.
Wow.
And never thought I'd be making my own beer too.
And here you are, very successful, enjoying it, and you're happy, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're happy.
Yeah.
You're happier than you were when you were doing the other industry.
So before I moved up to New York, I used to work at an office job for 11 years, sitting at a desk.
Suit, tie, whatever, khakis.
Yeah. Which was fine. Not something I wanted to do, and that's why I think in retrospect, I realized when we were offered this chance to buy this lawn care business that I had no idea how to run. We jumped on it, so let's just give it a shot and see what happens. So now I do I'm more hands-on, and sometimes I'm distilling all day, or we're brewing whatever. It's not sitting at a desk all day at all, kind of thing. It's actually, for me, it's much more enjoyable. I can go home end of the day tired and felt like I actually got a workout. And
it's something different.
Something different, yeah.
Most recently, I just met two gentlemen from Warwick, and they started a food truck. And I said, so what's your background? They're like, we kind of like to cook at home, but we hated working in the city. Yeah. And the pandemic gave us a way to recalibrate our lives. Yeah. And that's what happened. So a lot of success stories like that in yours. I appreciate your time today. And now I think we're going to move to the tasting.
Yeah.
Right?
Go right here really quick.
Okay, now for the favorite part of this podcast. We are going to sample some of the great products that Orange County Distillery has here. And the first is something near and dear to my heart. And Brian, I found out that you love these too. Indian Pale Ales.
Yeah.
So what's the name of this one, and what do we got here?
This is Love and Mathematics. This is our Northeast style IPA. It's hazier.
Awesome.
Definitely a hazier beer. This is definitely one of my favorites.
So let's give this a shot. Cheers to you and your success, and everybody that's willing to jump and take this plunge.
Now this is from Orange County Brewing, not Orange County Distillery, but kind of the same
family
company.
Same
awesome,
family. I love it.
Same family, yeah.
Wait, let me do one. We were gonna just do one sip. You can't just do one sip.
That's pretty good.
It's like Ron Burgundy says, right? Once it touch your lips,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, the next one we're going with now. And me as a beekeeper, I see the honey on it. What do we got going on?
So this is our honey whiskey. It's in the same family as our other whiskeys, bourbon, rye, and whatnot. What we did was we took used bourbon barrels, coated the inside with honey, emptied the honey out, and then put whiskey in there, let it age again, and so you get this. It's not like a liqueur. It's definitely a subtle honey taste on the back end, a little sweet.
And now, when people buy this or people try this, how do you tell them to serve this? When you have this at home, how do you put it with an ice cube in it?
Any cocktail you make, I like to drink it just straight on ice, but you can also, if you want to make an old fashioned.
It smells great. Ooh.
Yeah.
It smells awesome. Cheers. And just sip it?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's delicious. This is great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, not too sweet.
That's awesome. No, I love it.
More like a whiskey. Yeah.
So this is great. Brian, I really appreciate your time. And I think that the residents of Orange County, and I think we have a big fan base that watches what we do now in general anyway in the county. So you're going to have a lot of people from outside the area
get
some of your tips and see the risk that you had and now the reward that you have in front of us today. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank
you. I think this is fun. This is definitely a lot more fun than being in an office. And we'll be back next month with another one, and we have a lineup of some great guests coming up in the future. So continue to watch NeuCAST. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to get back to business with Bryan here. We got important stuff to talk about. Thank you.